Hi, today I'm going to show you how to create a map from a spreadsheet. I'm Helena, I'm the founder of PamPam, and in this channel I share tutorials and tips on how to create maps with no code using PamPam. So today we're going to go step by step how you can create a map that looks like this using a Google Sheet, a CSV, an Airtable, or even a Notion database. It all kind of works the same, but today we're going to do it using Google Sheets. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is log into PamPam, create an account. It is free to start and free to use the imports. There is a limit to how many places you can import, and then there are options to pay from there, but you can definitely test it for free. So you're going to click on Make a Map. And this is the PamPam editor. And so this is the main area that you're going to be working in to create your map. The main things to know are that you want to be in this edit mode. When you're in edit mode, you see the toolbar and you see all the different editing options. You also will find a lot of actions underneath this add button. So lots of things in here, including all of our import options, collapsing and expanding sections, so on. And then here's the main toolbar as well. And then when you're ready to share it out, which we'll get to later, this is where all of that is. So those are kind of the main things to know. So let's get started setting up our spreadsheet. So like I said, we're going to be using Google Sheets, but this will apply to if you're using a CSV or an Airtable or even a Notion database. So the main things to know is that there are two required fields when you're importing your map. You're going to need a title and an address, or coordinates. I won't show the coordinates in this example. We're going to keep it kind of more what's common. So those are the two fields that you need, and you'll also need this row where you actually have the names, title and address. Or something similar to that. So you don't want a spreadsheet that's just, without any column headers. So you're going to want these column headers here. The other important thing to know is that every title needs to be unique. So let's say I had open house and open house. PamPam would actually only import one of those. So every title needs to be unique. So this is the minimum set of information that you absolutely need. And then I'll go on to show you all of the other things that you can add. So take a moment to make sure that you have that in your spreadsheet. You have the header, you have your titles, and you have your addresses. I'm going to have an example here without an address, and I'll show you what happens with that. The next step is that you want to make sure that your sheet, your Google Sheet, is publicly viewable. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can export this as a CSV and then upload it. But for this example, your Google Sheet needs to be publicly viewable, and then we're going to copy this link. Now head over to your PamPam editor. Here, you're going to want to make sure you're in edit mode, and then click on this import data button here. You're also going to be able to find it here. When you click on this cloud, you're going to see the different ways that you can import your data. We're going to start with Google Sheets. Now we're going to paste in the link and click Next. Great. So remember, we only added two columns to our spreadsheet, title and address. So for now, that's all we're going to worry about. We're going to click Set Mapping. So this just kind of defines the fields that we want in our map. And now we have kind of those saved. And now we have this mode option here. So match means that it's going to match exactly what you have in your spreadsheet. That means that if you deleted something from your spreadsheet, the next time that you press the sync button, it would actually delete it from the PamPam app. We usually recommend this if you really want to keep your spreadsheet as the source of truth. If you only want to, add things from time to time, but also be making updates in your map, then we recommend using the only add, which will only add things to your map that are not on your map. For now, we'll use match and click sync. Okay, here we go. so this is what has been imported. We're going to name this demo map. And when we look in here, we see that we added these different items here. So these all had addresses on them, open house, realtor, and so on. South Mesa Trailhead did not have an address on it, and we'll see that it tried to map it over here. This seems accurate. Let's click on this Google link. That seems right. So in certain cases, if you have a name that is findable on Google Maps, like Empire State Building, then we will be able to map it. But if you're working with data, let's say you have a real estate map, and it's like house 1, 2, 3, we're not going to be able to map that. So in most cases, we do recommend just adding an address, but at times we may be able to not do it. So that's why I wanted to show that example. Okay, so this is really the bare minimum, right? And we have here these emojis that it auto-selected and so on. So now what I want to show you is what happens when you have more information. So this is the minimum required, and I'll link to the spreadsheet so you have the full thing. Now these are all of the other things we can import. So I'll go through these columns one by one. One is the sticker, so you can actually define what that little sticker looks like. You can also add a description. You can place things into sections, which are kind of like categories. You can add links. You can define your display type. You can add an image URL. You can add buttons, dates, up to 4 or so custom fields. You can have filters as well. So this is just an example. And then we also have a feature called landmarks. When you define something as a landmark, it makes it kind of bigger than everything else. So I'll link to the spreadsheet below so you can see kind of all the possible things you can add. But again, the minimum required is just this. So now let's import this full demo. So if you're working with Google Sheets, the way that the import will work is that it will always import the very first sheet down here. So that's kind of one way to keep all of your data together, but be importing different items. So let's copy this link again. Now we're going to go back to import data. We're going to remove this and just do it again. Great. So now that we see that it's mapping a lot more information that's in our spreadsheet because we have a lot more columns. And so we have the custom fields, the filter example, and so on. We also have here kind of these advanced options like sections, stickers, landmarks, and display. One thing to know is that if you want to add a button, you have to specifically add it here. So let's add the button here. We'll just call this button, or we can call this visit website. That's the actual title that will show up in your button. And then we'll map this to our button column in our spreadsheet and then delete it from here. Okay, so that was adding a button. There is an extra step to add the button. Otherwise, it should just automatically take the columns from your spreadsheet and map them here. So now let's click Set Mapping, and now let's do Sync. Great. So there is kind of this like extra section here. So we're going to go to this 3-dot menu and delete it. So now you can see that, this is looking a lot more lively. This neighborhood, we've added a picture. We have this button. We have our filter example. The filters will show up here. We have this video. This is now an event type. And so this is all coming from information on the spreadsheet. So that's kind of the main thing. An important thing to note as well in the toolbar is that we have a way to pick these display types. So let's talk a little bit about this. So in PamPam, basically what you're adding are spots to a map. They're just coordinates on a map. That's the main thing. And that's why the minimum thing that you need that's required is the title and an address or coordinates. But we have these display types that allow you to look at the spots in different ways and essentially create different types of maps. So you can just choose that through the import, but an easier way to do that is to go here to our display picker and kind of just apply them all at the same time. So if you wanted to have an event map, then you would just come here and make them all an event. So if you wanted to have them all be links, it would look like this. Profile, like this. This is good if you're importing like a business directory, logos. Images, looks like this. And then standard is our original kind of emojis. If you wanted to change the emojis in the actual map, then you would come here and do that. So this is going to override what we just did in the import. And so this works if you have a map that you want them all kind of looking the same. The example that we did, was having all these different display types for demo purposes. So that's it. Those are the main things to know. Check out some of the other tutorials for how to customize different other parts of your map. But I will link to the spreadsheet, and so you can use that as you're importing so you have a better understanding of how that works. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and if you found this video helpful, please like it and maybe even subscribe to this channel. It really helps us grow. Thank you.